the street lights lit this town like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
What up, fam? Happy Sunday! Welcome to yet another new software configuration. A plus on this one, the intro did not lag, did not stick. It just played, which is always nice and smooth. Now, we're testing this one out because next weekend, on the next debate review on Saturday, we're having a guest. You know, I can do two people with my OBS setup, but we're having another person, Godless Engineer, John Gleason, is going to be joining us, which means I needed a software that let me have extra guests. So we're testing this one out. I'm going to be using it for a few days to try to get the hang of it, iron out the bugs, see what we can do, and hopefully a good time will be had by all. And on that note, we're trying to have a good time tonight. And so we've got Gary Habermas, who, among other things, is a big fan of NDEs. Now, I don't know why Gary he's like the most credulous of all the working historians in New Testament studies. Like, not only does he believe Jesus and Bible and all that stuff, but he believes all the extras. He believes the Shroud of Turin. He believes near death experiences. It's been a while since we covered him, though. So I brought you a clip from out of the archive to remind you who we're dealing with here.
I would put probability for the Shroud at 60 to 80, 85%, depending on what kind of mood I'm in.
Yes, the probability, his professional determination as a historian, depends on what kind of mood he's in. It's been years and I'm still flabbergasted. Like, what kind of scholarship is that where you just make up the data and then admit it publicly? What do you do with that? Oh my goodness, it's wild. But you know what else is wild? I see you folks hanging out, joining us, participating in the chats. Let me see how this part works. This button. Okay, we're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. Okay, so first of all, Spooky Bed Hair was by dropping some ghosts in the very beginning. I don't have a clicky button for that for some reason. Elizabeth is here saying, "Ooh, I customized the font on the text thing, and I kind of like this. This is neat." It says, "Oh, he believes in NDEs, does he?" Not surprising, right? He believes in everything, all of the things. If you could think of a crazy miracle or whatever, he believes it. It's just, yeah. Miranda's here. She says there's a reason we call them near-death experiences, not post-death experiences. What exactly do they think is proven by someone not dying? Maybe that's why Gary sold, is because if you think about the Jesus situation, they call it a resurrection, but ultimately they thought he was dead, and then he wasn't dead. He was up walking around and things, according to their stories. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like a person who isn't actually dead. I don't know. I'm probably silly. Stardust Lilith is here. Wim Sweden. There's a spooky. There you are. There you are. Good to see you, Spooky. I'm one of Spooky's biggest fans. You may know. Stardust says looks awesome with the glasses. Thank you. It was a last minute change. I am overheating like crazy tonight. I don't know if the weather shifted or I don't know. I don't know. So like 2 minutes before live, I'm like, I'm sweating. This is uncomfortable. I need to change. So I changed real quick. This is the over thing that when I go to the beach, I wear this over my swimsuit, and I'm like, perfect. And then once I had it on, I'm like, it kind of goes with the glasses. Rochelle's here. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Let's see. Wim Sweden says, I'm now imagining Gary with Patrick Swayze behind him making pottery together. Oh, I would, if I had money, I would pay money to see that. For what that's worth. Yes, Miranda says the widely respected mood-based scholarship. Absolutely. Oh, wow. Oh, let's see. The comments keep jumping on me, so that's a thing I'll have to keep an eye on in the future. It's fine. It's fine for right now. It's all good. All right, let's add our friends to the stage. I'm sure I have a button for that. And I delete myself. There we go. It's a weird quirk of this software. When you add a thing, it takes you away, and then you have to add yourself back for some reason. I don't know. That may be useful if like something happens and I have to go suddenly. I can pull up a video and it'll just take up the screen, and then I can come back when I can. I don't know. Anyway, as always, we're skipping the introduction. Hey, this is Gary Habermas. He writes a bunch of things. Let's talk to him about NDEs. And we're starting with Sean's first question.
You've been studying near-death experiences well over 3 decades. If I asked you to give me an example of just one or two that you find most compelling, I know it's a cumulative case, but what are one or two that
I love, it starts off the way Sean loads things. Now, Sean McDowell, you may recall from other episodes and other channels, he's a Bible teacher at the Bible Institute of Los Angeles. That's what I may be getting one or two of the letters wrong, but that's what Biola is. That's where he teaches, where he pretends to be an atheist and he teaches other ministers to pretend to be atheists so that they can do mock debates with each other and basically reconceptualize their faith as them, the good people, versus the evil atheists who are the enemy. Because that's what all good Christians should do. Forget the starving people, forget the homeless people, forget the sick people. It's your job to hold firm against those dastardly atheists. But he's very polite about it. So I guess that makes him a good Christian. Oh, goodness. But he's starting out with the loaded language. He's setting the stage, I suppose. What setting the stage or poisoning the well? It depends on your point of view. But he's like, I know it's a cumulative case. It's another thought stopper, right? It's one of those things they throw out there, a cliche, so that you don't think about things. Cumulative case. That's a J. Warner Wallace-ism. He's the cold case guy. And he lays out that you don't actually have to prove a thing happened. You just throw a bunch of circumstantial stuff, and eventually your pile of bad evidence magically transforms, it transfigures, you might say, into good evidence, I guess. Maya is here saying Ember's too sexy for her clothes. I mean, I was too hot for my shirt at least, but details. Thank you, Maya.
Especially give you pause that you think are compelling.
Okay. Before I do that, would it be okay if I have 5 different kinds of NDE evidence? If it would be helpful for me to give those 5.
Ooh, 5 different kinds. I love lists. Oh, this should be fantastic. Now, I should clarify, the reason I wanted to cover this is because I have said it before, but it was a long time ago. I myself have had a near-death experience. And I experienced stuff. It's different from other instances of being unconscious, where it's just like your brain is turned off. There's not even a sense of lost time. You're just turned off. This was different. This was an experience, but it's different from any experience I've ever heard anyone describe. And that makes me interested in the phenomena, because it seems, from my perspective, that most people are just repeating shit they've heard other people say. The same thing as happens with the UFO experiences. You know, it wasn't until the media started paying attention to people who claimed UFO abductions that people started claiming UFO abductions. Curiously enough. So that's what it seems to me, but I am open to being wrong. I just, based on my experiences and my critical thinking and skepticism, it seems to me it's an effect produced by the brain when it's real in the first place and not somebody just trying to get Gary Habermas's attention or whatever. It's just, so let's see. 5 categories. Where does this go?
You'll know which ones I'm picking out of which categories.
Perfect.
Which categories? Okay. Real quickly, the 5, I argue this in all 3 of my large NDE essays, chapters. Okay.
Are they essays or are they chapters? Or are they essays with chapters? I mean, I suppose technically you could describe, a doctoral dissertation as an essay. You could. It might not convey the correct image to the person you're speaking to, but you could do it.
Some of the evidence is in the room. And it's all good.
Is the evidence in the room with us now, Gary? Holy shit. Oh, Misinterpretations is here. Misinterpretations. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm going to mention it at the beginning of the show for the people who don't stick around to the end. So tomorrow, I'm back on the morning show grind. I will be on at 11 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So far, I'm planning for all week, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But Monday evening, our friend Mark Reed is finally getting around to his 2.5K subscriber party. And I'll be joining him for that Monday evening. Tuesday, morning show again over here. And then Tuesday evening, Misinterpretations channel. We're gonna take on, what is it, like nano machines of the cell or something like. Oh, it'll be so much fun. I hope you join us. That's over at Misinterpretations channel. I need to give you a wrench so you can post the link, because I had the link earlier, but I don't have it right now. So I'll just do the thing. But speaking of other things I need to do, Jester, Lord of whatever the hell he wants, sends a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. And says, negative $20, says he will not define a kind, even though this isn't that kind of video. We know he won't. So here you go. Try to stay alive. Thank you, Jester, trying to help me not die, which is very much appreciated. I'm a big fan of not dying. And so far, I've been marginally successful.
In the, let's say, operating room, in the hospital room, in the house, it's in quarters where you don't see outside. Second is evidence at a distance. And if you can believe this,
so first is inside the room. That's our first case of NDE. I guess he means like the spirit self is in the room and you don't see outside. Second kind is at a distance. So the spirit self is removed from the corporeal body to some degree. I'm trying to translate. I may be getting it wrong because Gary's not being very clear, but I'm trying to make it make sense.
Longest case I have found is an NDE case where evidence was given. You got to be ready for this. 1,250 miles away. And I have a number of cases.
1,250 miles. So this is like an astral travel kind of NDE. Like, you're in, let's say, Los Angeles, and you almost die, but not quite. And while you're not dead, you have a vision of what's going on in, say, St. Louis. And somehow confirm that, I guess.
That are reported from 20 and 30 miles away. But that's outside the room. Third.
I mean, if you're in a spiritual state, like your body, your soul, for lack of a better term, is outside your body. Does distance matter? Like, why don't you go check out what's going on Jupiter or Alpha Centauri or something? But also, are we talking about remote viewing and astral travel, or are we talking about NDEs, which is like traditionally the shit you see about the afterlife, the after you die thing, the white light and the god of your choice and surrounded by family members, that sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe he's kind of just fusing the two together. These are the first two categories, is where you're doing basically remote viewing. Perhaps.
I argue, are NDEs in the blind. And these are people who either blind from birth or like minutes afterwards. In other words, by the time they went home from the hospital, they were blind. And
okay, blind people, NDEs, so people who do not see but still saw something. This is a weird categorization system. It doesn't seem to be internally consistent. Although from Gary, I can't say that's a surprise.
The only time they have seen anything in their life is during the NDE. And darn it, the minute it's over, they go back to being blind again. So their only sight is during the NDE. Okay, fourth and fifth, I call Twilight Zone cases. There are over 100 evidenced and collected cases by a medical doctor.
Oh, by a medical doctor. Medical doctors know all about life after death, I guess.
Of healthy people experiencing the sick and dying person's NDE. They went with them together. It's funny. I'll make up a case, but it'll be like if the nurse is by the bedside of the dying person, and while he or she is attending to the person dies. Well, you think the person who died, if we follow this out, is going to go up and so on. But all of a sudden, the nurse finds herself going up with the patient.
So for some reason, these last two things are the same category. They're 4 and 5, but they're the same thing somehow. And they go up, like the caretaker gets dragged to the afterlife. I don't think I've heard any of those before. But why aren't there any tales of the afterlife by themselves? Why is it only astral travel or I was with a person who was dying? This is weird. This is very strange. What's less strange is Misinterpretations has a link for us. So make sure you click that, open it as a new tab, and click the notify button to make sure you don't miss our hangout. It'll be, as I understand it, it's the first live show on that channel, which should make it extra fun because we're going to get to sort out the bugs together. It'll be, it's actually kind of ironic since we're dealing with subcellular molecular systems and we're, yeah. Anyway, Jester sends a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. And says, nah, Alpha Centauri has a restraining order out. Well, we can't confront the galactic court. That would be unseemly or something. They'll put tariffs on us, or I don't know.
And she goes up and she gets.
Oh, Miranda makes a good point. She says a medical doctor, not the medical community as a whole. And that is an excellent point. There's one dude that I know of. There may be more, but there's one specific dude who happens to have an MD who wrote a book about near-death experiences back in the 80s or 90s or something. And it was all anecdotes things he observed as a physician treating the dead and near dying and all of it. And it turns out like none of it was true. You know, nobody could confirm any of it. And it just hilarious. But a lot of those tales are still circulating.
To the pearly gates, just picture she's talking, I'm being facetious, but she's talking to St. Peter. And St. Peter says to the two of them, he's dead. He's staying. You're not dead. Get out of here. And he sends her back to the room. But
kicked out of heaven. Ooh, that sounds like a YouTube title. We could do I'm sure somebody has done a show about that.
It's okay if all you have is a healthy person talking about the experience, that's pretty decent evidence of itself. But sometimes the healthy person who goes finds out some other evidence before they go. And so that doubles the evidential value of the healthy person going with the person who will not return to Earth.
What do you mean it doubles the evidential value? If the other person does not come back, then you still only have one person's testimony. What do you mean it doubles it?
The last one, which is truly Twilight Zone, is made up of cases of people, everybody here is near death. And when they die, they're surrounded by a half dozen relatives. And here's dad, he died 10 years ago.
It's such a weird thing to say it counts as a near-death experience when it's you having an experience and you just happen to be physically near someone who died. You were near death. That's not what we're usually talking about, but okay.
Here's mom, she just died 2 years ago. Here's my aunt, here's my best friend, he was killed in a car accident when he was 16. And these people are around him, but somebody, and we prefer it to be somebody who's been dead for a while. Let's say your dad's been dead for 10 years, and the dad tells the person something that's very important, but nobody in the family knows it. And when they come back, they solve this riddle in the family that's been plaguing them for 10 years because it seems to them that their deceased father gave them the information, they brought it back. I call that one Twilight.
So there's a riddle of some kind that no one in the family can figure out. They have a vision of a long deceased family member who died, who took the information to their grave, apparently, and then divulges it posthumously, and then they figure out the thing. This sounds like the plot to my photographic novel. Brief tangent. What was it during 2020? It might have been like as we were starting to come out of the plague. I don't recall exactly when I did it, but it did happen to be the 100th anniversary of the first visual novel. A person in the Netherlands, I believe, published a novel in the early 20th century that was entirely images. For a couple of reasons. First, to show off how cool printing presses were getting, but more importantly, to have a novel that could be published in any country with no need for translations. No words required. It was a novel concept, you might say. Now, those things have been around for a while. Occasionally, you'll see like a graphic art novel or something that has no words, but no one had ever done it with photographs. And so I was like, this could be fun. This could be interesting. So I rounded up some local actors who'd been out of work because of the plague or whatever the hell it was. And we went to this abandoned ancient house and we did a series of photos that told a story completely visually. And, you know, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then it's one of the longest novels ever written. But it was sort of that kind of thing. Like, this family had a curse, and then grandma passed away, and she passed the secret on to her granddaughter. And the granddaughter goes back to the abandoned family farmhouse and finds these ghosts haunting it. And it's a whole thing. And it was really fun to do. And I wonder if Gary found my notebook or something. I don't know. Or a version of it reached his ear. I have no idea. I have no idea. But you know what I do know? Left-Handed Jedi sends a super chat for $2. Thank you so much, Jedi, and says, do you remember the book Heaven is for Real? Not specifically. There have been a few books like that. The most recent one that I read was called The Afterlife of Billy Finger, or something like that. And it was fucking dreadful. It was like, stop me if you've heard this one, but basically this person, our narrator, her brother, who lived a unsavory lifestyle, passed away at a shockingly early age. And rather than deal with the trauma of that, the main character, and this is supposedly based on a true story, started hallucinating her brother posthumously. But he said shit that was nothing like the brother character when he was alive. Like, he just manifest and start talking about cosmic quantum energy and how we all have to unite our frequencies to be in tune, or that kind of like top shelf woo-woo shit that he never would have said when he was alive. I'm like, fam, you are imagining this. It's like, it drove me fucking crazy. It drove me nuts. But there's a bunch of things like that. Heaven is for Real, I believe, would be something along the lines of, I had an NDE, I went to heaven, I saw what it looks like. But it also could be a Cat Care book, you know, the pink-haired fake prophet who's like, oh yeah, heaven is full of like cotton candy and things. It just, it's wild. And people make so much money at this shit, which may be why Gary keeps doing it. I don't know.
Twilight Zone, and I call the shared experiences Twilight Zone. Then we got the blind and in and out of the room. So those are 5.
Now that's helpful. Now, before we get into your example, I have some objections I want to run by you that relate to those different categories. So that's helpful to break it up that way. But just tell us one or two that really gives you pause. It's like, man, it'd be hard to explain this one away naturally.
Okay, Jedi says, oh shit, where'd it go? Okay, I guess it's this one. Kid supposedly has an NDE and goes to heaven. Later admits his parents pushed him to make it all up. Shock. I who could have imagined?
Okay. The one that the one I would vote for. Now, when I say that I vote for, I'm going to say, wait a minute. What do you want me to say? Because do you want me to get one from category 1, 2, maybe category 4 means more to you than 1.
We got a category 4 here, folks. Call the Ghostbusters.
So I'm better off using 1 4. In other words, different strokes for different folks. I'll try to use 1 or 2. There's so many of them. My latest essay lists over 500 evidential cases. I don't list them all. I just give a number, and then I give...
It lists 500 evidential cases, but doesn't list them all. Just gives a number. Gary's been reading the Bible a lot. He's like, I have here 500 witnesses. No, you can't see their names. You just have to believe me. There are 500 witnesses. Okay, St. Paul. Sure.
A bunch of them in the essay. And so sometimes I'll just ask the person, which of these categories do you prefer? And I'll pick one from that category. Here's the one I've heard recently that if somebody has a reputation, I want to hear it. Okay. This is in print. At Ohio State University. So we're going to put this in the operating room of a very prominent university, especially if you're a football fan. Anyway, at Ohio State University.
Does Ohio State University have an operating room? Do they have that many football injuries that they need an operating room? I mean, maybe they also have a medical school that happens to have an operating room. But this seems a little odd.
University. Man was being brought in from another hospital who was already clinically dead. They brought him in because he had to have a serious surgery that the other hospital couldn't finish, and it was an open heart, open aorta surgery. They had to do a heart and aorta. And any slip, anything, like as one doctor said, a nick on the side of the heart, and the person would bleed out. It's that.
I mean, if you're doing surgery on the aorta, you have to cut the aorta. Like that's how surgery works, Gary. This is a very strange story.
Touchy, but you have a heart and an aorta. Okay, when the guy's in, he's clinically dead. They put some instruments on him, and the instruments were either flat or not very good. But they're going to have to put this guy out immediately to operate. So they use a procedure that 20 years ago you wouldn't hear very much about, but now it's getting to be pretty common. And what they did was they had to stop his heart. Now,
if he was clinically dead when he came in, that definitionally means his heart was stopped. Like, that's what those words mean. Like, you can be brain dead and still have a beating heart, but that's a different category. That's a different thing. It's just, oh my goodness. I'm not sure if Gary is fabricating details to make the story seem more plausible, the same way the Bible does, or if he's just mangling this, overcomplicating it to try to make it seem more believable. It's just, what are we just tell the damn story, Gary. My goodness. Miranda sends a super chat for $10. Thank you so much, Miranda, and says, why is Sean going along with this? I know he's contractually obligated to believe in Christianity, but not this. Right. Why? I mean, just to stay on Gary's good side, maybe? I mean, he occasionally has people on that he very much does not agree with, but he just nods and plays along because it's like part of the circuit. It keeps him relevant, I guess. And, touching on conspiracy theories can ignite controversy. You're going to get, a few 100,000 people in the comments going, Sean, what are you doing? This is not necessary to believe in Jesus. Like, what is this? Let
me just pause there for a moment. Stop his heart. In experiments, when the heart stops, especially when it stops by what's called ventricular fibrillation, that's
VFib. That's a cool thing. Aunt Jer has found us information about Ohio State's University Hospital. So let's see what we can find here. Can I switch this over without ruining everything? Okay, so far so good. And we'll do this so we can see a little better. All right, what do we got here? Game days. Be aware of road closures. That makes sense. Magnet recognition. That's an honor for hospitals that have high nursing quality, sort of thing. They do have an emergency department. Neat. And a pharmacy also. The entrance change, different thing. We have health equity stuff. We have refer a patient. We have careers. Because I'm totally going to go get a career in Ohio. Oh, okay. Treatments and services, urgent care, emergency care, telehealth, primary care, brain spine neurology, cancer, heart and vascular. That's a thing they do. And transplants. To do transplants, you have to have an operating room, obviously. So, yeah, I guess they probably could. They probably could do the thing. Right.
The kind of heart attack where the guy falls on his face and never wakes up again. It's dead right away. That's why it's called cardiac arrest. Okay. And anywhere from 14.5 to 23 seconds later, in many experimental medical assays, you are brain dead within 15 to 25 seconds after heart stoppage. So,
no, it's not how that works. So there's a variation, as with all things having to do with physiology and anatomy and so on and so forth. The average person starts taking brain damage at around the 4-minute mark, and that's deprived of oxygen, right? A person recently set a world record for holding their breath during a dive at 23 minutes. It's possible. It's at the extreme end of human capability, but it is possible to go 23 minutes without brain death. I don't know if the person suffered brain damage from holding their breath that long, but they're still alive. So no, Gary, that's not even remotely true.
If you report something, if you die at time, 0.0, and you present evidence that's past the 30-second mark, it is truly remarkable because it is flat brain, flat heart data. And this is accepted by almost everybody in the field. I have a footnote of my.
It's accepted by almost everybody. Like my 500 witnesses. I have a list of names of people who accept it. Whatever. That's at least 2 different fallacies, but that's not what we're here to do. So I'm just sure, why not? Are the people who accept this nonsense in the room with us too, Gary?
Notes on how many people say that brain.
Like, the man has a PhD and he's still pulling an appeal to authority. What are we doing?
Stoppage comes 14.5 to 23 seconds later. Sean, my footnote is like 20, 25 lines long. That's how much experimental evidence there is for that point.
All right.
So this guy's dead. He's already clinically dead. They stop his heart, and before they can do anything to him, he's dead, because it's more than 30 seconds. All right. And you're only supposed to keep a person in that state. The anesthesiologist, the one who's doing the reporting, the one who's there, he says you're only supposed to keep somebody in that state for 50 minutes, no more than 50 minutes.
That's not... First of all, an anesthesiologist would have nothing to say about that. There's no one home at the moment, flatline brain activity means no one is home. But holy shit. You don't... If the person is dead at 30 seconds, you can't keep... You could put somebody into various states of low metabolic output. Like when they cool people down, right? They give them the ice bath and all that stuff to like way lower their temperature, put them into like mild hypothermia kind of thing, so they can do a longer heart surgery type deal. That sort of thing you might do for up to an hour. But what Gary's describing is not that. It's not the same thing. I'm not sure what the hell Gary is describing, because it doesn't make any freaking coherent sense with anything I've ever heard of for medicine, but it is not that thing. He's mixing the things together because he's the kind of guy who bases his data on whatever sort of mood he's in.
I would put probability for the shroud at 60 to 80, 85%, depending on what kind of mood I'm in.
Top-notch scholarship.
They couldn't fix this guy up in 50 minutes. So flat brain, flat heart, and they didn't get him out of the state for 92 minutes. He was double the maximum length. He was already clinically dead when he came in.
He was double dead. Plus, he was dead before he even... he came in with a stopped heart, and they also stopped his heart. So he's like extra dead, which means his testimony counts for triple. Yeah.
They killed him, stopped his heart. And his head, by the way, had blocks of ice on the side of it to keep the brain cooled down. A very, very touchy thing. And so...
Oh, so we are doing the cooling down thing, or we're just... This is like a 4-year-old telling a story. He's like adding details after the fact. Like, if your biological functions are not functioning, you're getting cold. You don't need blocks of ice. Does he think the brain overheats when there's no circulation? What? This is just... it's... I don't know. It's more fun than actually hearing about the NDEs, because he goes on about this for quite some time.
They did the surgery, and the main surgeon wanted to stop a few times, and the anesthesiologist said, no, keep pushing, let's do it again. And so they finished it, and it was successful. The anesthesiologist, 2 days later, so it's very soon, it's not 2 years later, 2 months later, 2 days later, he goes into ICU, and the guy is there, and he says, "Hey, Dr. So-and-so." And the anesthesiologist looks down, and his scrubs are on. He doesn't have his name tag on. He says, "How did you know my name?" And by the way, he expected to find that the patient had died. But the patient said to him, "I'd know you anywhere, because when they wanted to stop the experiment, you're the one that kept me alive, and I want to appreciate your saving me." And the guy goes, "Yeah, okay, that's interesting." And he's trying to think about that. And the doctor asks him,
because it's such an unusual thing to remember the name of the doctor who saved your life. Like, whatever, Gary, if you say so.
like, "Well, how long were you up there? How much did you see?" And the guy goes, kind of humorously, he goes, "Well, what can a guy do when he's up above his body and can't go very much? I just watched you guys. And by the way," he says, "you know those 3 lights that are over the operating table?" And the anesthesiologist said, "Yeah." He said, "Up on the back side of them, where you can't see them for the floor, on the back side, there are serial numbers." And a note in this study said these serial numbers are usually 7 to 10 numbers and letters long, and there were 3 of them. And the guy, so he got his pen and paper up, and the guy gave him all 3 numbers.
Oh my goodness.
The doctor himself, not somebody.
Cool. That's exactly the kind of test we've been trying to set up for decades, where somebody will write like a 7-digit number or something and put it on a piece of paper and put it like on top of a vending machine where you can't see it from the floor, and nobody ever mentions it. And then they'll ask people who claim to have an NDE if they saw the paper and what's written on the paper, or something like that. Like, it might even be something that's obviously super recognizable, so you don't have to remember the numbers, like 8675309, for example. We've been testing this for decades, and no one has ever done it. People have claimed to, but have been totally unable to verify it. Gary's just spreading rumors. He heard a person on the internet tell a story about another person who heard someone tell a story. It's the fish thing, which is ironic because Gary, also being a Christian, believes in the loaves and fishes. And that's exactly how that works too. You know, Jesus starts with 2 fishes and feeds 5,000 people through the power of storytelling.
Else, the doctor himself went and got a small step ladder, went up himself, couldn't quite get the light turned around to get the number, so a nurse had to come up and show him because they have to clean the lights all the time. So he got him. He copied on all 3 numbers. And
when I'm having, an out-of-body experience because I'm like triple, double, extra dead with whipped cream, I'm definitely wandering around the room in spiritual form, memorizing serial numbers. For sure, that's what I would do.
Guy got all 3 numbers correct. So you say 7 to 10 letters and numbers times 3, it's at least 21 letters and numbers, and the guy got them all correct. The doctor, then this doctor went on, and he went into a long discussion with cynical people. The discussion is over 100 pages long. I went through the entire thing, and skeptics will go,
yeah, discussions with cynical people. Oh my freaking goodness. Okay, Wim Sweden gives us a name, the Sam Parnia studies. Let's see if we can find anything fun about that. Let's look it up. Sam Parnia study. Yeah, let's go with that and see what we find. All right. And I'll take the comment off the screen so y'all can see a little bit better. Actually, maybe I'll take me off the screen. And asking if you can still hear me when I'm not there. If you can't still hear me, you wouldn't hear me to answer me. That was silly. I'm a silly bean. Anyway, let's see. Sam Parnia is a physician and researcher known for the AWARE-2 study, a large-scale multi-center investigation into consciousness and cognitive experiences during and after cardiac arrest. This study, involving 567 participants at 25 hospitals, used EEG and audiovisual audio-visual tests to identify brain activity and awareness during resuscitation. These findings indicate that cognitive processes and memory can occur during cardiac arrest, and that normal brain activity can persist long after the heart stops, challenging previous beliefs about the brain's irreversible shutdown. This research aims to improve cardiopulmonary resuscitation and understand end-of-life phenomena. So that's pretty neat. Awareness during resuscitation. Americans and their freaking acronyms. Ay, ay, ay. But here we have the thing. PubMed article. And oh, hold on, Gary. I'm not talking to you right now. I'm clicking around. I'm going to various places. And we'll put the link for the thing from the NIH. Is this tab showing? Okay, yeah, this tab is showing. Hooray. All right. Abstract, introduction. Cognitive activity and awareness during cardiac arrest are reported, but ill understood. The first of a kind study examined. Why is it called Aware 2 if it's the first of its kind? That's very, very. I digress. I mean, what else is new, right? Let's see. The first of its kind study examined consciousness and its underlying electrocortical biomarkers during cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Conclusions. I know, skipping to the end, such bad form. I missed the whole story that way. Consciousness, awareness, and cognitive processes may occur during CA, which I guess means where is it? Okay, cardiac arrest. Yes. So consciousness may occur during cardiac arrest. The emergence of normal EEG may reflect a resumption of a network level of cognitive activity and a biomarker of consciousness, lucidity, and authentic near-death experiences. I can see how this might relate slightly. Because it's not saying people are going to freaking heaven. It's saying the brain is doing shit. You know, like imagining things, perhaps. It actually, to me, it kind of answers the question, well, helps answer the question of what would happen if we were born like a brain in a vat kind of thing, like no connection to an actual reality. Would we imagine a universe to be in? It's kind of fascinating. Oh, there's so many comments. I can't keep up with anybody. Aunt Jer says, Ember, I heard you when I was dead that one time. You said, can you still hear me? Checkmate atheists. Aha. Proof. And Jester says, no, Ember, we can't hear you. I know that was a terribly formatted experiment. It was the worst. As Cook is here, says interesting topic. Hope I'm not too late. You are not. We're just Gary is finally getting to the near-death experience. Apparently, the person he's been describing their not dead situation for some time spent their afterlife memorizing some serial numbers. It seems. I mean, what else do you do?
Sense, but you're full of it. That can be explained easily. The guy came in the room first and he saw what was up there. Yeah, right. They're going to let him in the operating room. He's going to be on a ladder. No one's going to catch anything, right? And he's going to get these numbers. And the anesthesiologist said, hey, buddy, you blew it. When he came in, he was clinically dead. He died the rest of the way after we stopped his heart. This guy was dead. Try to come up with a theory.
That makes me think of The Princess Bride. You know, there's that scene where they go to Miracle Max and they're like, oh, he's not dead. He's only mostly dead, which means he's a little bit alive.
And so the skeptics were just, you know how atheists sometimes get. These guys were like angry and kind of going off on him. And the doctor would always be polite and say, you know, I want to thank you for that question. Probably thinking it was stupid to himself, but all he said was every time, that's polite. I appreciate it. And 3 times in that 100-page interview, 3 times, the anesthesiologist describes getting that little ladder, going up on it, finding the numbers himself. And the skeptic would say, "You went up there yourself." The doctor said, "I went up there myself." And he tells the story 3 times.
Mhm.
And at the end, it just kind of tails off. Now, I find that essay, I have to admit, within reason.
Is it an essay? Is it an interview? Is it a case study? Like, make up your mind, Gary. And also, why the generalities? Like, he did tell us Ohio State. But like, it's so vague. There's no year. It's all just, I heard and people say, and it just, what are we doing? Okay, so let's see. Ohio State. We know the person is an anesthesiologist. Anesthesiologist, I guess. And what else? What other search terms could we use? Serial numbers. Serial number. I don't want to put it like out of body experience, but right. Actually, let's lose the serial numbers and let's go with 100-page interview. That might get us somewhere. Okay. Oh, the overview, always a winner. No credible evidence suggests the Ohio State University's anesthesiology residency program has a 100-page interview. Oh, goodness. We're probably not going to find anything because even if the thing actually exists, it's just, there's not enough specific data to get us to what we're looking for. So, alas, but it was worth a quick search anyhow.
Almost irrefutable. The guy was dead. He was clinically dead to start with, and then dead when the surgery started. 90 minutes dead. And he repeats the numbers. I like that one a lot.
God's dropping by to remind us all that he never ceases to be amazed by the nuttiness of his own caricatures. Absolutely. Enter says, God, can you give Gary the only real NDE just to fuck with him? Oh, trolling the mortals. What could be better?
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty recent. It's not in the 2 I sent you. It's in another 2 that I just wrote elsewhere, and I put that story in there.
I have not seen that story. Let's stick with that one for right now. That's a pretty dramatic one to start with.
It is.
I want to shift and ask if you have, because you've been writing on this for like 3 decades plus, how many people have told you personal stories about this? How many people reach out and do like maybe just one jump out of one that someone's told you in person that you know, and you can change the details to protect people. But so I guess 2-part question. How many people emailed you and told you? Is it hundreds? Is it thousands? Have you lost count? And maybe just tell us one that you remember from that.
That's actually not a bad question from Sean, because Gary's on about how he's, heard from 500 witnesses and shit. Sean's like, okay, but what about people you have heard from? Like, not internet rumors, not books someone wrote decades ago that was debunked, but like people who came to you. And maybe tell us one of those stories.
Not only emails, I speak on this topic a lot. And so people come and give me their stories in person. So together, hundreds. I've heard hundreds of stories. We've got 3 or 4 of these in our own family. I think that almost every
Gary's fascinated with NDEs, and his family has had multiple NDEs. It's almost like those churches where the people do the glossolalia thing, the speaking in tongues, even though it's not what tongues is described as in the Bible, but never mind that. How when people are raised in a culture where that's a thing, they do that thing and they're like, oh, it's confirmation. It's a miracle. It's wild. But what is a miracle? Poor Claire sends a super chat for $9.99 USD. Thank you so much. And says, RE, the debate. I wanted to say to Drew, if you believe people can't be convinced by arguments, why make this video? He was using arguments to convince us that people can't be convinced by arguments. That is an excellent point, and pretty ironic, actually. I've continued to think about this. Now, this goes to, I think it was Friday's morning show. because Drew released a video saying debating people is pointless, and he was talking about his relationship with Sean McDowell, coincidentally enough. And then our friend Jay over at Pocket Locker 86 did a show about Drew's video, and then our friend Mark mentioned it on one of his shows, and it got some wheels spinning. It's been spinning in my head, and as I go for long walks, often in the evenings after sunset, because for some reason it's actually safer in this town, there's fewer people about, I ponder things. And so I was pondering this, and so I wanted to talk about the viability of debates. Like, is there a point? How can we do it in an effective way? But also, how can we do it without making the people we're trying to oppose ridiculously rich? I still don't have a really good answer about that, but you do raise a good point. Why try to convince people of something when it's one of those self-defeating things? Like, by all means, Drew is entitled to his opinion. He's allowed to say and think whatever the hell he wants, and that's fine. But like, the futility and pointlessness of trying to convince people that you cannot convince people, it's literally ironic. It's funny in a Shakespearean comedy sort of way, which is kind of wild. Now, since we're on the topic, I realize we're like an hour in on this show, so only the people who are here are ever going to see this. But I have had more thoughts about the subject, and it seems to me that we do have a way to conduct these matters without intentionally and deliberately platforming awful people in a way that it's like, this is my equal, treat them with respect sort of thing. And I think it's the sort of thing that we've been seeing starting to develop in the vertical video space, right? The Jovan Bradley, Justin from Deconstruction Zone, a few others, where they will just have a call-in number or something, with the understanding that any random person can call in and challenge them on one of the selected subjects. It's not ideal. It's often more for entertainment than education or enlightenment, but occasionally someone's mind does get changed. But more importantly, for the bigger issues that Drew is talking about, where the flow of money goes, the funds go to the people hosting those streams. They go into Jovan's pocket, not Ken Ham's. And in that respect, it's at least a better version of the thing. But I by no means have come to a definitive conclusion on this complex and nuanced matter. I probably won't, because it's a very complex and nuanced matter. But there's a lot more to talk about on that, I think. And Maya raises a fucking phenomenal point. It's not us platforming people that are more well-known than us. Like, I'm not platforming Gary Habermas. Like, I mean, first of all, critiquing someone is very different from having them on and speaking with them. But even if that were the case, I'm not giving him a platform. That's not how that works. L Trucker, member for 15 months, says, Zool, the Keymaster, Gatekeeper, Stay Puffed, and the Succulent Succubus are dyeing their shrouds to get ready for dead. Long live Annie Potts. That sounds like a hell of a party. And thank you for being a member for so very long, Al. I appreciate the hell out of you. Al has been a active participant in the community. When I went to do the solar eclipse, what was it, last year? My goodness. There was a long period of time between when I started setting up and the eclipse actually started happening and when we reached totality. And Al called in and chatted with me. We've chatted before, but like this one really sticks in my mind because it was just a long conversation while we waited for the sun, and it was pretty cool.
every family has cases like this in their own family if they'll look around and ask people what's going on. But here's a fun one. I was lecturing in Tennessee in a large church, and a family member, a guy came up to me and he
Nothing says academic like lecturing in a church.
said, "My name's so-and-so." He said, "Here, I'll give you my email and my name," and he writes it down for me. He said, I think he said my cousin, his wife was there. Our cousin is a, and again, I'll change some of the details, but he was like a deacon in a large Baptist church in that area in Tennessee. And the guy has had a bunch of heart attacks in his life.
So the person who spoke to Gary has a brother who has a cousin who has a friend whose mother's sister's uncle's cousin's aunt's dog groomer had a bunch of heart attacks. I'm being uncharitable, but this is what this sounds like to me.
And he had one. And when he came back, he said he was in hell. The Baptist deacon was in hell. So just to start the story, you want to make a smart aleck comment like, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, like that.
Right.
Well, so it makes the guy pretty nervous, makes him wonder what's going on. And years later, he had another heart attack and another NDE, and he goes to heaven. The same guy. So he's got a hell case.
Sure. I mean, if you're having NDEs, when you're having heart attacks, when you're, I mean, now we're talking about the thing we were supposed to be talking about. Goes to hell, goes to heaven. What's that like? How do we know this person? What can we verify, etc., etc.? But because it's such an undefined, feelings-based, person said a thing kind of field of study for, a highly qualified PhD level academic like Gary Habermas, it's just a jumble of woo-woo. But by all means, tell us about hell and heaven and things.
And a heaven case, same guy. And this guy standing there, he says, here, his name is Jim, whatever it is. Here's his phone number. And he writes his phone number down for me. Sean, you know something? I had so many evidential NDEs. If you believe this or not, I never called the guy. I still have his name and number in my most...
Sean says, tell me about someone you heard from personally. And Gary's like, well, here's this big, long exposition, but I never called the guy. Gary cares so much about accuracy in reporting and academic integrity, he never called the guy. And that's the story he picked out to tell Sean on Sean's show. Okay.
My favorite Bible that I do my devotional readings in. His name and number, I see it all the time, and I go, what a dummy, I never called him. Huh. But that was a crazy story. About 21%.
I can't argue with you there, Gary. Holy crap. It's just, oh, yeah, secondhand. Eyewitnesses, secondhand. And you never call the guy. It's goodness. L says, lick and describe. And while you're at it, click some of the YouTube buttons, if you don't mind, especially if you're new here. I need to find a way to make a subscribe button pop up so I can say, hey, like, subscribe, share the video. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help me continue to do it, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. You can support the channel on patreon.com/betterthanember. That's probably the best way because they take the least. YouTube takes a whole bunch. I appreciate the hell out of super chats. I really, really do. That's what's keeping me having food at the moment. I very much appreciate them. But YouTube takes 30%. So, Patreon's a good one. There's also Cash App, Venmo. All my links are on my website, betterthanember.com. And you can also help me not die over there. That's where you can find my... Are we back? Did we lose me? Okay, I think I got raptured there for a second. Wowzers, that was fun. That was okay. I'm watching back. There's like a 41-second delay or something in the stream. But yeah, apparently. God had an issue with me saying I'd like to not die. Which explains a lot. But there's a link pinned to the top of chat. It's also in the video description if you would like to help me not die. And that's all that does. That doesn't help with food or rent or any projects I want to try to do. That one is just to not die. But I appreciate any kind of support y'all want to send. Like Stardust Lilith. It would be great if I could pronounce people's names correctly. I'm just, oh my goodness. Stardust Lilith sends $10. Thank you so much. And says, the world is so much better with you here. Let's keep it that way. Oh, I appreciate when, people want me to stick around. Oh, goodness. JJ asks, what was it like on the other side? I cannot say. And there's a very good reason I cannot say. Because since my experience is unlike anything I've ever heard anyone else describe, I don't want to reveal it and have someone else repeat it back to me. I want someone to tell me what they experienced and have it match my experience as a kind of control for whether or not what I experienced was objectively true. Like, is there any external reality to my experience, or is it just what my own head came up with? And if I tell people, then they can just tell it back to me. You see? At least that's the idea. I don't expect anybody's ever going to tell me an experience that matches mine or is even remotely close, because it's like everything I do, it's a little different. Lil says, you can call me Lil too, Ember. Yay. I appreciate that, because even though I try to be good with words and enunciation, I mean, I've been doing broadcasting in one form or another for freaking 20 plus years at this point. I still get tongue-tied from time to time. I'm still a human. It's fine. God says, I promise it wasn't me. I think what happened was, and I'm just speculating here, but my computer, as you may be aware, has issues from time to time. And sometimes one of the things that happens is my screen just goes out. And when that happens, I have to reach down to the back of the computer and take out the HDMI cable that connects to my monitor and plug it into a different port so that it'll bring the image back up. I don't know why that works, but it works. So I have the computer turned sideways so I can reach the HDMI ports more easily. And right next to where my feet go is where the Cat 5 cable that connects directly to the modem is. And if I move my foot just wrong and I flick that cable, it could interrupt my connection. I've never had it happen before, but I suspect that's what it might have been. So for all I know, the computer just switched over to Wi-Fi, or I don't know, but it's fine. We're here. It's good. Let's carry on. My wayward heathens and heretics and things.
Of all reported NDEs are hell cases.
That's right.
And there are 2 doctors that I'm aware of, 2, that say about 50% of their cases were hell cases. That's really debatable on the evidence, but I think 21 is pretty high.
On the evidence. The man who just makes up data says it's debatable on the evidence. What evidence you got, Gary? Can we see some? Can we see any? Or is it all just, this is Bible level evidence? You know, a person told me about a thing another person said they did. Evidence.
Because if you're a deacon in a Baptist church and you think you went to hell, first of all, you'd be scared to death. Yeah. Secondly, you wouldn't want to tell anybody because that makes you a loser.
Exactly.
So
it makes you a loser? No. It means it's an existential crisis for a Baptist. It means you're not saved. It means whatever you think you did to beg Jesus's forgiveness and accept him into your heart and all of that stuff, you didn't do it right. You're bound for hell. You're not forgiven. What do? Because according to the Baptists, accepting Jesus, paying lip service is the thing you need to do. And if that didn't work, what do? Do you challenge your faith? Do you say, oh, clearly the doctrine I've been taught is incorrect? How do you handle that? Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
The number's going to be a lot larger than 21. So anyway, that guy had both.
Gary, I could tell a ton of stories. I won't fill a time, but I was sitting in a Starbucks, and Starbucks.
Miranda says he's in a good mood, so the evidence is strong today. Oh, goodness.
I normally don't work at, and a pastor I'd never seen at that Starbucks. I usually see him across town. I was sitting there working on lectures for my resurrection class, and I was researching near-death experiences. Pastor comes in, just sits down, looks at me, goes, "Can I share with you a vision and a near-death experience I had?" I said, "Sure." He shared it. At the end, I gave him all this data. He's like, "How do you know this?" I said, "Because I'm preparing a lecture on this right now." I mean, that is...
He's doing a lecture on resurrection. Does he think everybody resurrects? Or, like, why would you have NDE data if you're preparing a presentation on Jesus? What? Also, Sean, you have a first-hand account. Tell us. I'm sure Gary is desperate for good data. I mean, it'd be secondhand because it's coming from Sean rather than the original source, but Sean got it from the original source. That makes it, almost as good as eyewitnesses, especially if he writes it down after 30 or 40 years.
One example of so many. One happened to me this past week. An agnostic who I was talking with about a week ago had an out-of-body experience and just completely shook him up. So I've talked about this more. I've shared about this more and start hearing stories. I can only imagine, given that you've written on this since the early 90s and speak more on this than I do, how many people reach out to you. That's incredible. Now, you started writing your book. Your first book with JP was called Beyond Death in 1992.
Right.
I mean, I have a ton of questions about this, but how would you assess the case for near-death experiences now versus when you wrote 30-some years ago that first chapter in that book?
And let me back it up briefly. That book is 92. I've been studying NDE since 72, just before I finished my PhD.
Okay.
So
since before, what is his PhD on? Let's see if we can find out. Gary Habermas. God damn it. Dissertation. 1976. It's a okay, Liberty University. Can't say that's surprising. What did I do? What have I done? I did okay. I think we're good. Like I said, folks, new software. We're working with it. I don't want to accept cookies. Can I just not? I don't want your Liberty cookies. Oh, fine, whatever. All right. 1976, degree granted PhD from Michigan State University. I guess it's just capped at, because it's faculty. It's a faculty dissertation. That's cool. Gary Habermas. The subject of this dissertation is the resurrection of Jesus, which is perceived to be the central doctrine of the Christian faith. This subject is treated rationally in regards to the possibility of the resurrection being a historical event. Research in this topic falls into the realms of three disciples. I think he meant disciplines, but it says disciples. Religion, history, and philosophy. The entire question is admittedly most related to Christian theology, but there has also been an upsurge in the amount of interest from contemporary history and philosophy as well. Some of these trends in intellectual thought are also investigated. This dissertation therefore deals with the problems encountered in a rational approach to the magical fucking resurrection. As stated above, the main purpose is to endeavor to ascertain if this occurrence can be demonstrated to be historical or not. However, there are other definite implications involved beyond this immediate purpose for if the resurrection actually happened, parentheses, or it did not, this is surely much significance for Christian faith and theology. I love the typos. Oh, maybe it's a bad copy. Maybe it's a clerical error. but I suspect not. So we're not going to read the whole thing. This isn't a hello, I'm Kent Hovind. Final paragraph says, no, I just want the final paragraph. Just the final paragraph. Can we make that bigger? I can make that a lot bigger. Look at that. I don't know if that's readable for y'all, but it's bigger anyway. The results show that the literal resurrection of Jesus is in all probability a historical fact. Well, we know what kind of mood Gary was in when he wrote this. Alternate theories are thoroughly investigated as part of the three major possibilities outlined above. Cool. A false quadrichotomy, I suppose. If we knock down the three straw men, then it must mean magic, right? That's how that works. It's simple deduction. It is found that there are no naturalistic views of the three I presented. There are no naturalistic views which adequately explain the facts. Oh, this is where he's the minimal facts guy, and this is where that started. Here's some facts, and they must mean magic. It's awesome. In addition, there are several strong historical facts which also point to this even. Not this event, this even. Based upon such probabilities, the resurrection is affirmed as a historical even. There are also certain implications for Christian faith and theology because of this conclusion. And you can read the whole dissertation right on the liberty.edu website, faculty dissertations. So if you're into it, if you really want to know, you can find it. That was fun. Now let's get back to Gary telling his ghost stories.
So what is that? over 50 years.
Wow.
And so I've had a lot of time to do a lot of it's changed a lot. But the essay you have from Discovery Institute Press, Bill Dembski and Stephen Meyer and those guys they just did a book on dualism. And they asked me to do a chapter on evidential indeed.
Of course, Gary works with the Discovery Institute, whose open mission statement is to use creationism, or, intelligent design, to supplant and overthrow science in the United States as a stepping stone to instituting a theocracy. Of course, Gary works with them. I mean, Sean has their director on his show regularly. Why wouldn't he?
For this book, Defending Dualism. And my editor, we each had personal editors assigned to us from Discovery. And I had a physicist assigned to me, like most of the people at Discovery are. And I got to know this guy quite well after working with him for a long time. And at the end of our dialogue, I said, hey, let me try something on you. I said, I'm not trying to make you angry. I don't think there's any chance of that. He was a really nice guy. I said, I'm not trying to make you angry, but let me just tell you something at the end. Here's my view. I said, you work with intelligent design and fine tuning. Yes. That's your specialty. Yes. All right. I just want to make a comment.
I missed a good one because I was the one talking. I wasn't reacting. And that makes me bad at my job sometimes. Miranda points out when I was, back over there looking at the dissertation, speaking of making things bigger, and if you want to make things bigger, go to adamandeve.com. Enter code Brentley at checkout for 50% off almost any one item, 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Not sponsored, but I love using that ad. It's so freaking funny. So thank you for reminding me so I can indulge in my favorite thing that I definitely should not be doing. Piracy.
He said, go for it. I said, I think there's more evidence for NDEs than there is for either intelligent design or fine tuning.
Wow.
I want to clip that. The next time some smug mofo is like, oh, fine tuning, I'll be like, Gary Habermas says there's more evidence for NDEs than for fine tuning. Your case is weak sauce. Get the hell out. Get good noob. Bring better arguments. Whatever, all of those things. My Unfinished Song, who's been a member for 3 months, uses the complimentary member chat to say, "Hail Ember and hail debunking Gary can't find his ass." Copyright Al Trucker. And Hale says, "Thanks for the credit." Oh, goodness. Y'all are the best.
And I just said it without even being positive I could break it up. I mean, back it up. I just said it like you'd say something to a friend, like try to get him going. And he said, after working with you through your chapter, he said, "I'm not sure I would argue with you."
Wow.
Now to
Interesting.
me, for a specialist, a physicist, that was really major.
Yeah.
One more example. I've got a
Okay.
buddy, he's got a PhD.
So the physicist who works for the Discovery Institute is intimidated by Gary Habermas's towering intellect.
an analyst.
Next, Gary's going to tell us about that time he ran into a burning building and saved 4 small children plus an entire family of cats before the fire department even arrived.
Philosophy, really, really sharp. And one of the things he does is evaluate arguments by percentages, but he's really, really strict. Christians are going to be surprised when he tells you about your favorite argument for Christianity, where he puts it. And it's going to be very low because he's a Christian, but he's very strict on this. And I asked him to give me, I said, where do you put intelligent design and fine tuning? And where do you put this and where do you put that? And I'm giving these different ones, but I'll just give you those 2. I said, where do you put evidence for fine tuning and intelligent design? He said about
those are different things. So fine tuning obviously is an argument from ignorance. It's what it boils down to, is the universe exists. It exists in the way we observe it to exist. We don't know why, therefore God. There's a lot more steps thrown in there, but they're not necessary. They're just there to make it look more complicated and more sophisticated than it actually is. It's just an argument from ignorance. I don't know why the universe is the way it is. Therefore, it's not even therefore God. It's therefore a creator. And then you make a non sequitur, non-intuitive leap to your favorite holy book. It's by far the best argument. Clearly. I mean, you can prove fairies, you can prove unicorns, you can prove the Blarney Stone, you can even prove Nil over there, Nil, the great not God and creator of creator gods. It's the best argument, absolutely. And intelligent design is even funnier because where fine-tuning has no evidence at all. It's just a declarative statement of ignorance. Freaking intelligent design is actively contraindicated by the evidence. It has negative proof. Amazing. Super. So yes, tell us how your NDEs are at least as good as a thing that is a declarative statement of ignorance and things that there is proof against. Go ahead, Gary.
70. Now, I would put it a lot higher than that, but he's very, very strict. He puts it at 70. I said, where do you put near-death experiences? He said 75. I said,
now Gary's not just making up his own data, he's making up other people's made-up data. I love it. This is academics in the Christian world.
Anything higher than near-death experiences? He said, well, we'd have to talk about the resurrection. But right now in our discussion, no, nothing's higher than my 75 for NDEs. So there's a second example of evaluation of the NDE evidence. And that was just a few months ago, by the way. It was pretty recent.
I did that video recently with 100 apologists. I asked their
Yes, you did.
top arguments. Third was Jesus. Second, moral argument. Number 1, creation. The only one who's...
He's talking about a video where he... I have it in my collection. I plan to do a show. I was preparing to do a show on it. Things got complicated. Stuff went all over the place. It's fine. It's fine. But I've seen the video he's talking about because I was preparing to do a show on it. And I may still at some point. I don't know. But he has evidence. And his evidence is he did a survey of 100 apologists to see what compels them. There's no evidence. There isn't even like anecdotes of evidence. It's just, I mean, he does have actual data, so there's that, but it's just what the apologists say is compelling to them. It's not even like which evidence is best. It's which arguments do you find the best of the Misinterpretations has to take off. Thank you for joining and hanging out with us. I appreciate it. Reminder link going to be over at her place on Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, click that link, open in a new tab, and click the notify button. That little notify button, it'll give you a little alert, a push notification or something 30 minutes before showtime, and when we actually go live. So yeah, that's a great way to make sure you don't miss it, because it should be tons of fun. Like everything we do. Probably more fun than what I do, because there'll be two people having fun. Yes. Make sure you come.
Said like near-death experiences with Steve Miller, whom you did the forward
know
for
really
the
well.
book. He's been on the show a bunch of times. I'm starting to move that direction more and more myself as possibly the most compelling account, at least for the afterlife, that challenges naturalism. That's one reason why I keep
It challenges naturalism. Sean. Can I call you Sean? Dr. Sean, PhD. Sean. You understand that experiences happen in the brain, including near-death experiences. Those are super easy for us to explain in a naturalistic sense. In fact, we can do better than explain. We can conduct experiments. We can devise hypotheses of all kinds and engineer encounters whereby we gather data and make observations. Real data, not I heard a story from a friend of a friend, but like scans, EEGs, fast MRI, these sorts of things. And we can determine if the brain is active and in what ways it is active during the alleged experiences. And then we can use those observations to deconfirm the false hypotheses and get closer and closer to the truth, as opposed to your side of the table, where you just make shit up and hope for the best. You have faith. I mean, you don't even have the Bible to draw upon for this one. Jesus never says a damn thing about sometimes you'll be almost dead and you'll have a magical hocus pocus where you can memorize some serial numbers. What are you doing, Sean? Like, not only is naturalism able to kick the ever-loving shit out of explainability, but we can, if we really wanted to, we can outright prove your bullshit, which is not biblical at all, is not true. If we really wanted to. But for right now, it appears we would rather spend our money on painting over crosswalks, deporting people, and penis pills. Priorities, I suppose.
visiting this on this channel, because I think people need to wake up and consider it. Now, give me some numbers. You have this, like in terms of the chapter you sent me and that you've done on near-death experiences, the ones that are still forthcoming in the Blackwell Companion. By the way, these are top academic, non-Christian, secular presses asking you.
Are they? Are they top-notch, non-Christian secular what the hell? Okay, Blackwell Companion. I've heard this name before, but I'm not sure specifically what it is, because it's top shelf. It's too top shelf for me. I'm not academic enough. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Wikipedia. Why not? The Blackwell Companion to Philosophy is a reference work in philosophy edited by this fella and this person and published by Blackwell Publishers in 1996. So that's a specific thing. It's like an edition that came out at one time. I don't think that's what we're talking about. There's a series, 75 entries in the series. I guess they just kept coming out with it. There's also a Blackwell Companion to the Study of Religion. So I guess we need more specificity. Which Blackwell Companion are we talking about? I don't know. If there's several editions covering several different topics, they may as well say the newspaper, like which newspaper, which publisher, which brand, what masthead, which edition. Information, please. Oh, that's too much to ask, though.
You to publish this.
You gotta have faith, you see.
What are some of the latest numbers, and how does it compare to some time ago?
Well, the one I sent you from the earlier one for Blackwell is like 2016 or 2018. The one from Discovery Institute is only about, I'd have to look at the date, probably a year or two old. The third one hasn't come out yet, and that's Blackwell. Okay. What makes the third one different is I was asked to do an essay, and I was given a good amount of pages on arguments for an afterlife. Arguments for an afterlife, not just NDEs. Arguments for an afterlife. And I did resurrection, NDEs. I did those two. And then, like my buddy Steve Miller.
How many resurrections are you working on, Gary? Like, if everybody can resurrect, then why do people ever stay dead? It's very strange. Oh my goodness. Al has sent a song. Now, as you may recall, our friend Al Trucker has a channel where he makes some silly songs, among other things, and you should definitely check it out. Let's see that one. Let me grab the link. I shall grab the link. It's Al Trucker 18 is the handle here on YouTube. Of course, if you need to find a creator, head on over to my website, betterthanember.com, click on the creator tab, and you get a list of all the skeptic and humanist creators, science friends, etc. Everybody I know of that I wish I'd heard about sooner. If there's a person missing, let me know so I can put them on there. There's over 100 creatives on here that I wish I'd known about, and maybe you do too. Al Trucker, right there, number 3. They're alphabetical for arbitrary reasons, but I had to organize them somehow. And that seemed like the most effective way to find people. So yeah, Al Trucker's right there on that list, but I will drop the link in the live chats right there. It's actually slightly hard to see my screen with the sunglasses on because I have dark mode on. Oh goodness. But Al sent us the video, the song. I don't know how appropriate it is, but let's give it a try and see what happens. What could possibly go wrong? Right? Sure.
Demon dreams make me scream. The succubus, she wants my cream. Christian love torments the scene. Everybody's looking for some sin. Some of them want to preach ghouls. Some of them want to cheat some fools. Some of them want to disabuse them. Some of them want to light the fuse. Demon dreams are making me scream. Who am I to say my piece? I've spun the wheel and I've purchased an ear. Everybody's looking for some sin. Hold your cross up, crusade on, keep your cross up. Fight Trigon, I smack my head, big face palm, smack my head, brain cells gone. Fucking smack my head, atomic face palm, smack my head, and the demon's gone. Wanted some cash to fight demon. JC's gone, now move along. Some of them have been haunted. Some of them won't be possessed. Some of them want to delude you. Some of them want to see you nude. Sweet cream is made by to look at the trees. I pray for rapture from the big JC. Everybody seeing empty caves. Rising Messiah from shallow grave. Who am I to ask to be saved? I cut my hair with a big dull blade. Everybody's facing their demon. Street preachers made of sleaze. Who will come to rapture me? I come to God on a bended knee. Everybody's searching for demons, demonic dreams of taking fees. My eyes, they now start to bleed. I pray on those who won't believe. Everybody's tithing to Jesus. The rich preach and spread disease. Who can now suppress a sneeze? Demand salvation from the dead JC.
Oh wow, that was fun. I was trying so hard not to laugh over some part because some of the lyrics they just caught me, and I'm like, oh what? No. Nope. That's a lot of copyright. We can't be playing that. I don't know why that auto played. It shouldn't have done that, but there we are. Oh wow, that was ooh boy. That was probably too much as it is. I'm probably going to have to edit that 2 seconds out, which means it's a good thing the chat is on stream, because when you edit a live stream, the replay goes away, which is rude, but what can you do? I'm trying to find where to re-add Gary here. And now I got to re-add myself. There we go. Okay. Oh goodness, what a trip! Because when Lindsay Sterling started, I didn't even have I'm just boop X. Just nope. Close that window. So I couldn't switch back over like I wanted. Oh wow, that was that. It was fun though. It was worth it. That was fun. Thank you for sending that out. Oh my goodness. And that's just one of the various goodies that Al has waiting for you over at L Trucker 18. Yeah. All right. Now that we've had our intermission, which was a fun intermission, we probably should. Let's do a little more, Gary.
I did deathbed visions and post-death visions. That's where the husband, and sometimes as high as 75%, sometimes a lot lower, where spouses see their spouse, but there's no way you could say the person wasn't dead yet, because the person's already been buried and they're in the ground. And that night, this is a real story. That night, the Baptist pastor, whose son told me the story, who's also a Baptist pastor with 2 doctorates, he told me his dad went in the bedroom that night and mom was standing.
We're just gonna keep adding details, but never say who the hell we're talking about. Is Gary making these up? Probably, some of them. You know, using Gary's academic formula for determining the validity of evidence, my mood tells me he's making up pretty much all of them, which is clearly conclusive evidence. You know, I'm going to write a dissertation on it for Liberty University or something. Fuck.
At the foot of his bed. She didn't say anything, but she was standing there. And when you're married for a long time, you can read expressions. And the expression on her face said, "Don't worry about me. Everything's cool." Now, so I asked this pastor guy who explained it to me, his dad. I said, "Your dad's pretty strict about what he'll count for evidence in other goofy fields like
Yeah, Katina says this is a real story. Okay, we believe you. We don't believe you, Gary. But like, it reminds me of that classic thing with the car dealers. They're like, "Let me be honest with you." Were you not being honest until now? Like, are you lying now, saying "let me be honest," or were you lying before? Like, this is not helping your case, friendo. What do you mean? Miranda points out grief hallucinations happen. The vast majority of visions are people like pareidolia. Like, I mean, hell, you don't even need grief, you know? Like, there have been times when I was an over-the-road truck driver, the world was loud all the time. You know, the truck was loud, traffic was loud, even with the truck off, truck stops were loud. It was never fucking quiet. And then one day, after being a driver for years and years, I was driving teams at the time. We stopped at my co-driver's house, and he went in and stayed in the house. So it was just me in the truck on this property away from all the noisy things. And it was warm enough I didn't have to run the truck. It was the first time in years I'd had quiet, real quiet. And the silence was so loud, ironically. And I could like hear, it was like that EVP phenomena, right? The random noises my ears were producing in the silence occasionally sounded kind of like words. So, I mean, yes, grief will like compel you to want to see that kind of thing more, like see a departed loved one or whatever, but you don't even have to have that to have some kind of not really a hallucination, but in the order of hallucination kind of experience. Like, you know, there isn't actually a demon whispering in your ear, potato chips or whatever. Like, that's not actually a real thing happening, but your brain still tells you that's the data it's receiving, you know?
Post-death visions and NDs, right? Yeah, it'd take a lot for my dad to believe. I said, all right, well, let me ask you a question. Could you talk your dad out of having seen your mom at the foot of his bed? He said, there's no possible way. He said, Dad knows she was in the room. So that's a post-death vision, what I call post-death vision. Some people call it other names, but so I did all four of those.
Some people call it other names, like a bereavement hallucination. Oh, yeah, some people call it the people who actually care about academic research call it other names. Gary. We could do minimal facts on this. That would be fun and kind of ironic.
But from the first essay you have, I listed that I had a list. I said that I had a list of 300 evidential NDs.
That's right.
When I wrote the third one, which hasn't come out yet, my list went up to over 500. So,
wow.
Over
500 witnesses. It's evidential because I wrote them down. It's on paper now. That's evidence. That counts.
500 evidential NDs alone. This is not the deathbed and post-death. So the evidence is multiplying like crazy. And I've got a book on my shelf over here. It's by a medical doctor.
You know, I bet if we looked, we could find over 500 evidential visions of Elvis. And, you know, I bet the evidence is multiplying like crazy. That must make it more real, right?
And every article in the book every essay was published in a medical journal. So we're talking pretty tough stuff here. He estimates as the book begins, I'd have to check.
A medical journal. Which journal? Can we look it up? Can we verify any of this? Of course not. It's just a journal. Trust me, bro. Fucking hell. Yes, 500 witnesses. It's a thing. It's the same reason that with these people of this particularly religious tradition, they keep coming up with 40 days for everything because it's a repeated trope in their mythology. You know, that such happened for 40 days. It rained for 40 days. Jesus was in the desert for 40 days. He was in the desert several orders of magnitude longer than he was dead for. That's very strange, but whatever. Yeah, it's a recurring thing. 500 witnesses, 500 witnesses. We have to have parity. It makes it more true. Probably.
How wide geographically this was. But he said, as nearly as they can tell, there have been 20 million near-death sightings in the world in the last few years. I don't know if that was
Sure, 20 million people had some kind of experience, but you know what's funny about that? And the number probably came out of Gary's gut, just like all the rest of this, and that's fine. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say 6 million of them saw Jesus, or the serial numbers on the back of a vending machine. You know, one of those. Same thing. They both prove Christianity. But 6 million people saw the prophet Muhammad, and 6 million people saw, I guess, Elijah, because neither of those two prophets was there. And you know, a whole bunch of people saw Vishnu, and a whole bunch of people saw the Great Spirit, like whatever. The fact that people see all sorts of different things, they're not all seeing the same thing, it kind of tells you something rather important. Because if the experiences are generated by the brain, then you would expect people to imagine whatever their faith says they should experience. And that's what we get. We never get a Muslim imagining the Christian heaven. We never get a Christian imagining a Hindu hell. It never fucking happens. If one of them were true, that should be the predominant experience. But even that notwithstanding, the other possibility is they are experiencing something real, and the fact those things contradict tells us all the religions are fake. So, you know, pick, Gary, whichever you prefer, because, you know, your gut is the best evidence of all.
America, I don't know if that was the West, I don't know if that was the whole world, 20 million. And
there's 20 million in the world. I don't know if it's America, I don't know if it's the West, but 20. Gary doesn't even know where his made-up number comes from. It's a number I've heard people are saying. It's the biggest number. The fuck, Gary? You know, I don't like to denigrate the people that I'm reviewing. I try to be kind, I try to be respectful, and I try to stay focused on the silly things they're saying. But Gary, this is fucking disgraceful. What are you doing? Wowzers, folks.
that's quite a number, because it offsets that critical like this. A critic who says, well, listen, buddy, I don't make theories based on 5 or 10 cases that you want to throw out there. These things are so rare, they can't work their way into a theory. How's 20 million sound? Do you like the number 20 million? Well, I never heard of those. Well,
so why not 100 million? Why not 2 billion? 2 billion. Ooh, that's an interesting idea. What if we took the people who haven't had NDEs and we create a comprehensive theory about that? And then your 20 million people that you made up, they're a statistical anomaly. We should, that's not data. That's errors in the data collection. What do we do with that? Can we make a model based on that? I bet we can. But you know what else we can do? We can thank poor Claire for another super chat. Claire said, sends $4.99. Thank you so much, Claire. And says, RE debate. I don't think we argue to do good. I think we don't know how not to. Everyone feels the need to say what they believe, some more than others. I think that's part of it. I think the general idea, the original idea of debate is to take conflicting concepts and pit them directly head to head so that two people who are motivated by logic and reason can isolate which or both of their blind spots are, logically speaking. Like it's a similar concept to that of science. The way we do science we take a hypothesis and then we do our best to knock it down. This is a pre-scientific similar sort of idea where we take a person who has a concept and we take someone else who is trained to use logic as a weapon and sick them on that idea and try to knock it down. But they're doing the same thing the other way. It's like intellectual combat sports. At least that was the original idea, because the original concept of philosophy, Aristotle's philosophy, Plato's philosophy, going all the way back to the Greeks, who, yes, there was philosophy before them, but they were like formalizing it. Their idea was that philosophy, logic, reason. These are good for ruling out things that are false. It's really hard to rule in things that are true, but you can knock things out that are false pretty damn effectively. And so that was the original concept of debate, is to knock out the bad ideas that the person presenting them, for whatever reason, blind spots, errors in reasoning, motivated reasoning, wishful thinking, all kinds of cognitive biases and mistakes. They're just not seeing that they're wrong. So somebody else shows them aggressively, at least as I understand it.
So much less for you not looking at them. I mean, they're out there. So they're very, very common. And like I said, the evidential one's up to about, at least from what I know, 500.
So you've been using the term evidential near-death experience, and clearly you wouldn't think that those 20 million can be documented in an evidentially supportive manner. Clarify for us what you mean by an evidential NDE.
Yes, do tell us what you mean by evidential. What is your standard of evidence, Gary?
Well, in my 5 categories, in the room, out of the room, death, the deaf, like I said it wrong, the blind, then those who share the experience, and those who have that twilight zone. Dad told me something, he died 10 years ago. If you go across all the categories,
so the only people who go to heaven and hell is those category 4s who go with the dead person and share their experience somehow. So we're not even categorizing the people who, like he was talking about earlier, that Baptist deacon who went to hell. Not a category. That's not a thing.
I would say I look for cases that, I have a few in the list of 500 that are nice little comments that are kind of evidential, but not real powerful. I'd say of the real powerful evidential ones, there's a lot. There could be 200. I mean, really, really.
There's a lot. There could be 200. He was just moments ago claiming 20 million. And now he's saying a lot is 200. You're not giving me a whole lot of confidence, Gary.
Highly evidenced. I can tell you one of the shared ones.
Okay, hang on before we come to the shared one.
Sure.
The way I understand what you mean by an evidential near-death experience is that the person has information that they could not have had either in that location or that physical state that they bring back, which demonstrates that there's at least some continued consciousness after the grave and we're not our bodies. So,
first of all, I love how Sean has to answer the question for Gary. Like, before you go off on your next thing, what I mean by evidence is there's evidence. Like a person has knowledge they could not have had. But then Sean tacks on an even bigger claim that is not evidenced by any of this, that there's a life after death beyond the grave and all this stuff. These people didn't actually die, though. They were still alive. It's not life after death. They're still there. What are you talking about, Sean? It's, like saying the fact I went to the grocery store is proof that there's missiles in Cuba. They're not even remotely related. How do you get that connection?
So for me, when I hear a lot of stories, I actually believe most people, because people are not making these stories up. Some people do. They're very reluctant to share them. They think you're going to think they're crazy. They transform their lives. So I tend to believe people when they tell me. But there's only evidential significance when somebody is blind and they report something they can't normally see. They know something at a distance, or they have information when the brain is stopped, come back and tell us about it. That's what you mean by evidential near-death experience. Did I get that right?
They get evidence that they would not have known 1 second before that near-death thing that sent.
Sapphire Light says, so this is like supposed to be like coast to coast for Christians. Now that you mention it, yes, Sean has kind of become the George Noory of Christianity. He's the Art Bell of apologetics. Come on my show. As long as you affirm Jesus, you can talk about any crazy wackadoo nonsense you want. Sell your books, sell your essays. The crazier, the better. The audience will love it. because as long as we're talking about this weird ass woo-woo, we're not talking about what reason does anybody have to believe in Jesus and the Bible book and all of those things. Fuck me sideways with mustard.
Them into a spiral, the heart attack, whatever. They would not have known on their own. Now, some of these are backed up by police reports. They see the accident in the parking lot, and they can put it together, and they know you passed out at 12:10. They know from the police report the accident happened at 12:40. We didn't get you situated till 2:10, and the accident in the parking lot happened in that frame while you were out on the floor with no windows in the room. That kind of stuff. When you put those, now that's not a real case. That's just something I'm giving.
It's just like all the it's different from the other things. I'm just making that one up. It's different from the other things.
Example, when you can fit the evidence inside especially I like brain dead cases. So if I get brain dead cases with evidence, I tend to like cases at a distance. But when you hear cases like the three numbers,
I like the brain dead cases. I like the cases at a distance. I don't, I bet I have a case around here somewhere. Let me take these off so I can see what the hell I'm doing. I bet I have a case right around here that has, let me see. It has all the evidence of the truth of near-death experiences inside it. And I'm going to show you. I know it looks like books because this is where information lives. And if we look really, really close, really carefully examine, we will find an overwhelming amount of evidence. Oh shit, it was just my gut. My bad. But it is the same amount of evidence. In fact, it's in books, and that makes it more true, right? Fucking hell. Poor Claire sends a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. And says, then again, maybe speaking honestly is inherently good. Anyway, it's annoying when people are arguing and then act like they're better than people who argue. I think I see what you mean. That, like, in Drew's case, he was using arguments to try to convince people not to argue because he's taking the moral high ground. He's saying, I am a more righteous person than thou, who stoop to the level of the debate bros and throw down in the muck and mire and so forth. I think Drew tries to not do that, but some things can still come off that way. But other people can definitely come off that way. Me personally, I like debate. I think it's valuable. I just don't know how useful it is. And then there's those drawbacks of like funneling a shit ton of money to organizations that are actively trying to hurt all of us. I think that's the biggest issue, is we need to not shovel money at them for our entertainment. There have to be better ways to do that. But I do enjoy debate. And with certain things, like policy issues, if you're dealing with sane people, debate can be useful and constructive. But when you're dealing with adults who still believe in fucking fairy tales, I don't know if you're ever going to get any kind of utility out of it, if there's ever going to be real productiveness. But maybe I'm silly. Sweden says, you do not see with the eyes of faith, Ember. Ah, but I do. Just a very, very different kind of faith, you might say. I mean, I am still a minister. I've performed 14 weddings so far, and pluses and minuses, put a whole lot of people in the ground. And by that, I don't mean I oversaw the ceremonies of people, you know what? Never mind. It's fine. Let's go back to Gary. What's up with him? Hey, Randy, how you doing?
The back of the light. Or the woman who was OCD who reported the 12-digit number on the top of the over everybody's head machine. Here's a quickie. A guy was up above his body, and he said, "There's a quarter up there. It's a 1982 quarter." And everybody goes,
I'll take things that never happened for 1,000, Alex. That's another thing we've tested for. It's like Gary's reading the things we've tested for that no one has ever fucking done and is just imagining a person who did those. Like, instead of saying, hey, we did this test and no one passed, he's like half remembering, hey, we did this test, and he himself is having an NDE level hallucination of hearing from a person who knew a person who did that thing. Fuck. But instead of imagining 1982 pennies, we can also imagine a super chat from Jester for $5. Thank you so much, Jester, who says, or would have said if this were real, a case of spiritus. I'm not sure if that's English. Rectificowani. A case of that would cause less brain damage than trying to believe their case, which is probably true. I'm not sure what the thing is, but it could be just about anything, and it would probably be true. Oh, wow. Oh. Yeah, like if Equus says, like you would care about a quarter or the year it was minted. Right, like, I'm a fucking ghost, the afterlife is real, let me memorize the serial number on this freaking dollar bill or something. Like, really? I'm very skeptical. I don't know. Jester says it's Polish, the spiritus beverage thing. So yeah.
"That's pretty interesting. Just saw the date. I saw it clearly." So he comes back, and I guess this guy was kind of a skeptic. And later, when his doctor came in, he said to the doctor, "Hey, doc, you could do me a huge favor if you would go up on the ladder and get that quarter. I'll tell you where it is. If you can get the ladder, it means..."
Wait, I thought it was a penny. Now it's a quarter? Maybe I'm confused. Maybe I had an NDE when I wasn't looking and I got myself confused. It's fine. It's fine.
So much to me when I tell the story that it was a doctor that got it and not a janitor, let's say. The guy goes, "All right, I'll do it." He gets a letter and goes up there. Now you could say, if it's a 1982, the first two numbers are...
Why does it matter that it's a doctor rather than a janitor? This runs against biblical narratives, right? The criteria of an embarrassment. No one would believe the story if it were a janitor who got it, so that means it's more true. Because the fact he's saying it's a janitor is proof he's not making it up. So by the apologetical logic they use to say the Bible is reliable, using that same formula, this story is not just false, but self-confessedly false. Pretty neat trick. I love it when they self-debunk.
Going to be either 19 or 20. That's going to be 50-50. But what about the 80? It won't even be 50-50. What about the 82? Well, even if you hit two numbers in a row, that's pretty decent. But the guy told him what the date was. The guy went up, got the quarter. It was 1982. It's not like 12 digits or the guy with the three 10-digit numbers on the light. But even little things like that, there's a couple.
I thought they were 7-digit numbers on the light. But I mean, when Gary's just making the information up on the fly, I mean, who could remember what he himself just said less than 30 minutes ago in Gary time? I've been interrupting a lot. But in fairness, sometimes it's for a musical break, and I think that's worth doing.
Quarter stories. There's a penny story. I've got two cases that people told me where they were putting the person in the ambulance. The person was up above their body while they moved the body into the ambulance, and they saw the number on the top of the ambulance. You know what you use for helicopters when the ambulances have to be tracked?
The same number that's visible on the side panels. So you can identify the ambulance, the specific unit. And also, not all ambulances have that. Much like not all school buses have that. Some do, but not all of them. Some police cars have that, but not all of them.
They properly gave the number on top of the ambulance. So that's probably a 3-digit number. I think both cases, they were 3-digit numbers. And
that I kind of want to fact check because it could be true, but Gary's propensity to just make shit up makes me wonder. Let's see. Ambulance numbers on top, I guess. Maybe. Let's do images. What do we got here? This is not helpful. This one kind of shows, okay, it happens to be a 3-digit number, but like we were saying earlier, it's the same as the number on the side panel, so you can identify the specific unit. Let's see if we can get any others here. Here's another one, also a 3-digit number. Okay, maybe it is. Maybe it just would have been hilarious to me if like every instance that were publicly available was like a 7-digit number or like a letter and 2 numbers or something like that, It'd just be like, oh, look, Gary's just pulling shit out of his ass. And he may still be pulling shit out of his ass, but he doesn't fail this specific challenge. It just, it could have been fun.
The patient up above the body, the patient's out. They're not going to be standing up looking on top of the ambulance.
Yeah.
And those are 3-digit numbers. So a lot of the number ones I think are pretty cool.
So that makes a lot of sense. And I've actually been reading the chapter in your volume on the resurrection.
Does it make sense, Sean? Maybe I'm using the wrong goggles. I need Bible colored goggles or gullible colored goggles or something. But like, I'm not sure it does make sense. Maybe that's a me problem though. I don't know.
Volume 1 evidences. In the back, there's an appendix on near-death experiences. And one of the first things you say is, one of the most common objections I hear, and I was not aware of this until I read your chapter, is that critics will say, well, we should set up experiments where people could only view things from above, like in hospital rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they had that information, like numbers you described, then, and the patients don't know that the stuff is hidden up there, that would confirm it. You start off the chapter by saying there's multiple, I think you say between 1 and maybe 2 dozen cases, like you've just described, of people being able to report specific details and numbers from a position they could not have been able to see.
Except there aren't. There may be people claiming that, but every single time it's been tested, not one person has ever been able to do anything like that. Not ever. All the evidence, all the documentation of every attempt to verify anything along these lines has never held up. It's just hearsay. It's just people hearing about these studies and a while later, a few years later, going, oh, I think I heard a story about a person who did this thing. When they've actually heard about the attempt to find people doing this thing, and it's never happened. It's almost like if we started saying, hey, we did this test for Guinness World Records to see if it was possible to juggle 200 items at once, but nobody's ever been able to do it. And then a few years later, people start saying they knew a guy who juggled 200 things at once. Show me then. Fuck. Stop saying I heard a thing from a person about a thing. This is hurting my head, folks.
See from below. So that objection, can we say that one has sufficiently been responded to?
Well, the critics...
It would be sufficiently responded to if you could provide documentation instead of a person said. Holy fuck. Oh, goodness.
Critics like that objection for this reason. What they do is they put pads, computer pads or computers up above, and they put random numbers that switch every few seconds. I think there's been one case of a person reporting that, and there were a bunch of cooperating hospitals that put these things up there, and nobody's has really done that. My answer to that is, let's use
a bunch of hospitals cooperated to do this thing, but nobody's really done that. We know, Gary. We know no one has really done that. Although I appreciate your honesty just then, accidental as it may have been.
Plato here. If you're up above your body, and everybody says it's an awesome thing. It's like, look at this world around me. I feel wonderful. But I'm not looking for numbers on a computer up in the air.
Exactly. If you're having a spiritual experience, like, oh, look, there's my body down there. They're operating on it. You're not looking up fucking serial numbers and shit. Yes, that's exactly it, Gary. Holy crap. Fox is here. Hello. Welcome to the party. The good news is you can rewind, and you probably should, because, Gary is Gary through the whole thing, but we have had a whole lot of fun, including a musical break courtesy of El Trucker, which I did not plan on, but I very much enjoyed. So, be sure to check that out or something. Do what you want. I'm just saying it's there. There's, like all my streams, there's surprises hidden inside. It's fun that way. That's why we keep doing these, because even when I have a plan, shit happens I didn't foresee coming. The spirits never whispered in my ear, be prepared for this. Oh no. It just happens. It just comes that way. All right. I need to wrap this thing up because I'm going to be back on the air at 11 a.m. Eastern, immediately following Chris Mallard and Ryan on the Daily Atheist Morning Show, which is also a hoot. And if you're up that early, you may want to check out. After their show wraps, I'm going live, and that means I need to get some goddamn sleep. So let's skip to the end here and see if Gary can land one more believable or any believable point. That would be neat.
Those are the words of truth. Okay, so he tells the whole tribe this, and they're prepared for these two men to come. And the men don't come for 7 years. And it was a very large tribe. And 2 years later, the men came, and the whole tribe converted. Now, here's my question. Did anybody who believed the witch doctor in the story, but died in 7 years in a big tribe before the white men came, is that in this category too? That they believed as much information as they had, which is probably more than some of the Old Testament saints had, and they would be in that category. So when God sends visions and dreams to any number of channels, to the witch doctor, to the Muslims, NDEs, yeah, I think we're selling God short. And well, first,
so we're confirming all the religions. I'm pretty sure Gary's a heretic, which is another thing I did not see coming.
well, I believe God can do whatever he wants to. It's not a contradiction.
Fair
But yeah, I'm totally open to this kind of stuff. And I think we have to quit being stupid. And so stupid, what I mean by stupid is so legalistic.
Gary, that was perfect. That was absolutely phenomenal, because while I respect the fact that you have a PhD, I respect even more the fact that you just said we have to stop being stupid. I could not agree more. Holy crap. Thank you all so much for joining. This has been a ton of fun. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're new here, come back, join us, and hang out in the live chat. We're always trying to have a good time. Sometimes it works better than others. Today was a pretty good one. But I appreciate all y'all, especially you folks who sent super chats, because that is how I pay bills and things, and I very much appreciate it. Is there a way I can find the damn things? I don't think there is from inside the app. Maybe I can find it on the YouTubes. I won't be able to highlight it this way, but it's not showing me. Show me. Okay, here we go. All right. See, this is one area where OBS is better. Oh my goodness. You guys have been amazing this evening. There's a whole lot of thingies I haven't even hearted yet. Okay. Jester opened the show, super chat for $20, saying negative $20 says he will not define a kind, even though this isn't that kind of video. We know he won't, so here you go. Try to stay alive. Thank you, Jester. Jester followed it up with another $2, saying, nah, Alpha Centauri has a restraining order. Jedi counterattacked with $2 of his own, saying, do you remember the book Heaven is for Real? Which was made up, of course. Miranda sent $10. Excuse me, and said, why is Sean going along with this? I know he's contractually obligated to believe in Christianity, but not this. Poor Claire sent $9.99, talking about the debate. I want to say to Drew, if you believe people can't be convinced by arguments, why make this video? He was using arguments to convince us that people can't be convinced by arguments. Al Trucker used a member chat. 15 months. Woo-hoo! Says Zool, the Keymaster, Gatekeeper, Stay Puffed, and the Succulent Succubus are dyeing their shrouds to get ready for Dead. Long live Annie Potts. Lil sent $10 and said, the world is much better with you here. Let's keep it that way. And that that touches me. I really appreciate that. Like, I know y'all are here because you enjoy me being here, but like when people expressly say so, it's not a thing I've gotten a lot in my life, and it gets me. A thing I didn't notice because the machine didn't tell me, Sapphire Light sent 5 gift Ember ships. So congratulations to you folks who picked those up. I wish I'd caught it so I could call out your names, but the good news is you do get access to all the fun emojis which are voted on by the members, as well as other perks. I recently had to recalibrate memberships because YouTube went and set it to like the highest level, and I'm like, oh goodness. So I do happen to know the gift memberships, you gain access to all the member exclusive videos, early and ad-free access to upcoming pre-recorded videos, produced videos. There's one currently in the pipeline that'll come out later this week, I think on Wednesday. It's fine. And member streams, which I do at least once a month. I hope y'all enjoy, and thank you, Sapphire. My unfinished song, member for 3 months, said, "Hail Ember and hail debunking Gary can't find his ass." Copyright L Trucker. Poor Claire sent $4.99. I'm getting a little dry, folks. RE Debate. I don't think we argue to do good. I think we don't know how not to. Everyone feels a need to say what they believe, some more than others. And then followed that up with $4.99. Thank you again. And said, then again, maybe speaking honestly is inherently good. Anyway, it's annoying when people are arguing and then act like they're better than people who argue. The irony. And Jester sends $5, saying that a case of spiritus Polish drink would cause less brain damage than trying to believe their case. Thank you all so much. That's a lot of super chats to read at the end. It was pretty neat to have that. So I appreciate that as well. Thank you all so much for joining, for subscribing, for being part of this community. Fox says, Ember, you were one of the bright spots in my internet experiences. You were appreciated by me and my family. I appreciate you folks. I can't even begin to describe how much. Maybe that's a topic for another show, but I have to go the fuck to bed. So thank you all. Here's an outro I put together because there's so many top level members now. I kind of have to. So I hope you enjoy. This is a slightly new and improved version. Members for August from a couple of days ago, just after my birthday. And hopefully we can keep this up, and I'll make a new one every month or something like that. I don't know yet, but thank you all. Thanks to the top level members and Patreon supporters for August: Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Kalasia, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, The Mighty Filbert, Hunter Biden's Laptops, Larkwright, Greg S., Neurogeezer, Mage Greywolf, Faran Salas, Poor Claire, BTF Wayne, Cosmic Kyle, Bomb Poppy, RDZ, Billy Bongsalot, Marty Cameo, My Unfinished Sock, Austin Sims, Tinker Phil, Anarchic Fox, Sabrina Page, Leslie Hutchings, Gazela Mail, Evil Toe, Right-Handed Sith, Luke, D. Murphy, Jesse, Uncle Charlie, Ryan Cultastic, Kurisu Yamato, Scott Duke, Michael Bell, Sumami, Citizen 9, S. Cook, James Nordoff, Hecklek, Velvet, KCA Randy, B.S. Lewis, Tori Swansiger, Whimsy, Kristen Slays, Godless Engineer, Fern Lovebond, Hillhugger, Karen Butcher, Milwaukee Atheists, Booba Sweat, Maya Adkisson, My Unfinished Studio, Ian Chen Official, Introvert Ancom, Tilting Windmill, Christopher Tablante, Robin Webster, Proby666, Jason T, Action Squad, Robert Madewell, Doc Don Hogg, Jester, Sydney Raptor, Stardust Lilith, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Jake, Insert clever, dapper inside joke here, Nelson, Supercritical Snake, Eli Slack, Geo Sam, Kalasia789, L Trucker, You Are Victoria, Polly Has His Cracker, Roman Weber, Leo Filius, Nikki Pare, Jasper, Yahooligan, and Pinworm. Thank you all so much. I feel energized and grateful that you're part of this community. Thank you.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt.